StrataLogica offers today. And I'm excited to share with you this section of StrataLogica. These resources are so engaging and rich with content. They have primary and secondary sources from which to teach, as well as a variety of nonfiction text features, including maps, charts, graphs, timelines, vocabulary, and many, many more. Most of our atlases are also available in Spanish editions for your ELL students. And we're also going to talk about how we can use these atlases and charts to engage our students in the classroom, as well as talk about strategies that we can use with these resources. So let's get started. When you log into StrataLogica, this is a screen that you'll see. And don't worry about taking a lot of notes today. You can always go back and review the webinar online or use the user guides that are here at the bottom of the screen, or the tutorials and videos that are always available to you. Today we're going to begin with our Atlases tab. So we're going to click here on the Atlas tab. And when you open the Atlas tab, it's going to automatically bring you to this tab, which is the first atlas in the series. This is our kindergarten atlas. If you click on the stack of papers over here to the left where the arrow is on this paper icon, it will open all the atlases and show you what you have to choose from. These are the atlases to the left, and they're in order by grade level. So the jumbo is a kindergarten atlas, the block buddy is a first grade, and so forth and so on. So let me scroll down to show you the rest of the choices. So I've scrolled down, and now you can see some of the other titles: Map Chant, Junior Geographer, Our Country's History, all the way down to the desk atlases. And again, we also have our Spanish versions available that you can see underneath each atlas. To demonstrate how to access the atlas, let me look at the Junior Geographer Atlas, which is our 4th grade. So I've clicked on the Junior Geographer tab, and here's the front cover. And there's several ways that I can access the pages within the atlas. I can use the arrow to the right of the page. So I'm going to click on this arrow. And it brings us to the first page, which is the same type of resource in every atlas. When you first open it up, it's always going to give you a facts page. At the top of the screen is a zoom feature that's going to allow you to zoom in as closely as you'd like on any part of the page. The zoom feature allows you to zoom in and focus on one area at a time. So like I've done here, I've just pulled up the very top part of that atlas. So now I've zoomed back out and I'm back on a full page view. And another way to find a page, other than using the arrows on the left side or the right side, is to go to the bottom to the Page Finder tab across the bottom of the screen. This is actually a new feature that StrataLogica has just added this week. It used to be across the top of the page. So on some of my slides you may see that, but this is actually our newest feature that we're very proud to present to you. So what you would do is simply hold the cursor over the pages at the bottom, and it'll show you the page number. So as I would move my cursor to the right or the left, the page number is going to pop up. And if I click there on page 8 and 9, it's automatically going to take me to that page. So I can also, to the right, use this arrow, and it's going to scroll all of those pages over to allow me to see everything that's in the atlas. Another way is I can simply just go up to the very top of the screen here in this box that's circled, and I can type in the page number that I want to go to, and it'll automatically take me there. So I'm going to type in page 32. And now I'm on page 32. If I want to go all the way back to the front or the back of the atlas, I can click on the arrow with a vertical line beside it at the bottom of the screen. So if I click on the left arrow here at the bottom, it just brings me back to the front cover. So let's go back to page 16. The pictures in these atlases are so colorful as you can see, and just very engaging for the students. Again, I can zoom in on any part of the page. So let's zoom in on the bullets here. What does a physical map show? I want to go to the page 46. So I've typed that into the box. And it brings me directly to page 46 and 47. How do you read an economic map? Now I'm going to go to page 44. There's so many wonderful features in these atlases. These are perfect for teaching nonfiction text features to deepen your students' comprehension of the text. One of the strategies I use with my students is called RAT, read around the text. You can do this with any grade level and any of our atlases and content. So let's zoom in on this page to see how the students can read around the text. This particular page shows a timeline of growth over time. Timelines frequently help organize topics and information. One of the ways we can engage with visuals, such as a timeline, is to use a KWL chart. I start with modeling what the students will be learning during this unit of study. So for example, I know, looking at the timeline at the very beginning, that the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. So after you've modeled the first few topics on the timeline, on the K section of the chart, you can use the turn and talk strategy, where they will turn to the partner and talk about something that they know, and just so forth and so on all the way through. So once you've done that and completed the K part, then ask students what questions they still have. And I always allow them to write those questions on Post-it notes, and we add those to the W part of the KWL chart, the what I still want to know, or what questions I have. And then, of course, at the conclusion of the lesson, I always go back to my KWL chart and have students complete the L section of what we've learned. So timelines are just one great visual text feature that allows us to do this. The timeline continues on this page. So I've zoomed in to show you the right section of the timeline. So we can have students look at all the pictures and the maps around the text. And this is a great way to begin to engage the students by asking them to make predictions and to access their background knowledge of the topic. These bulleted information sections that I've zoomed in on here offer opportunities for all different levels of questioning. The upper right-hand side of this page, where I've zoomed in, gives you a chart about the growth in the United States, as well as a graph. Again, these nuggets of information allow for higher levels of questioning. So this could also easily lead to research assignments for students. Why did the United States double in size from 1800 and 1830? These atlases also lend themselves to teaching your students inferencing strategies. So a good inferencing strategy could be the use of a graphic organizer, where you use a focus question that's written across the top, and then you can draw just a simple T-chart with the topic and facts on the left side and inferencing on the right side. So students would gather information using these atlases and the information they've gained, and they'll read and study these graphs and charts. And this strategy is best modeled, by the teacher, and then allowed to be practiced by the class. And then you can have them do that, finish the T-chart or do their own for independent practice. So we're just there using the gradual release of responsibility. So now I'm going to type in page 28 in the box at the top of the screen, and I'll show you how the teacher or the students can interact with these pages using the toolbox at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to click on the toolbox on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to select the marker icon, and then this window will pop up, providing you with a color and a size option to use. So let me zoom in on the map on the right page, and I'm going to select the color blue, and I'm going to select the medium size marker point. So here I've circled a section on the map just to show you how the marker can be used, and there are numerous ways that you can have students use the toolbox to interact with the atlases. You can have students circle, underline, so forth and so on different areas of the map, and you can also just assign different questions or directions for them to use on their own device or a whole group or collaboratively. If you want to erase what you've drawn, you can simply click on the eraser icon, and this gives you the option to click on one object and erase it, or if I've written and drawn many things on the page, I can click on Erase All, and it will take everything off the page that I've written. Now let's talk about how to access and use the lesson plans and the tips that go with each atlas. These are already done for you, as well as assessments with answer keys for teachers to access the mastery of the content taught. So let's click on the pencil and paper tab on the left-hand side, and this will open up our lesson plans. On the right side of the page, this window will pop up. So let's look at the tips section first. Just for the sake of the webinar, I'm going to zoom in on this section to give you a closer view. So here's the tips section, which will give you an overview of how to use the atlas. It also gives you many helpful tips on how to use the library, as well as moving through the atlas and marking the atlas. If you click on the Lessons tab on the top right, it'll give you many activities and lesson plans. These are already done for you for every atlas page that StrataLogica offers, so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. So let's zoom in a little bit. Under the Teacher tab, you'll find Common Core State Standard Lessons, activity lessons, and other information about using this atlas. Each of our atlases and all the different series, grade levels, and content give you this information and lessons. So it's there for you for every single atlas that we have. Let's look at the Contents tab. So this is the cover of the Student Activity tab. So let me just scroll down. This is what the Contents page looks like, which gives you the content and the page number for each topic. Okay, this is zoomed in a little bit just to kind of show you what all is available. These are great resources to teach all of your standards. So each atlas gives you objectives and detailed information on how to use the atlas with your students. This is another section of just directions and kind of a how-to page. It also provides you with a standards checklist for each lesson. So all you would do is add your students' names, and you're able to document when each student has met each standard. These next few slides are examples of many activities from which to choose. So I'll just go through some of these and show you. It actually tells the student what page number to turn in their atlas and gives them engaging activities and directions of things to do. Okay, this is another example of just some of the different ways that the atlases provide the information. Some are fill in the blank, some are actually going and having them do things on the map. This is another example where they're going to use page 8 and 9 of a specific atlas, looking at the continents and oceans. Here's another one on landforms. They're asking them to actually look at the photographs on the atlas page, on the physical map on page 70 and 71, and use the map and the clues below to complete the chart. You're also provided with answer keys for each activity. So let's go back to the Lessons tab and look to see what an activity might look like. The first page gives you all the lesson titles that are available for that particular atlas, as well as a correlation of the lesson standards. So this is already done for you to ensure that you meet all the Common Core standards for your grade level or your content. And this is it just zoomed in a little bit so that you can see this is grade 4. English Language Arts, and this is the reading for informational text, and it tells you, for example, on the first one, referring to details and examples, is going to be lesson 4. The next standard you would find met in lesson 6, determining the main idea. Okay, and this is the bottom part. It covers the writing section of the standards, the speaking, listening, the language. And it also provides you with a how-to page. Takes all the guesswork out for you. It also provides an answer key for every lesson, and this will significantly cut down on your planning time. This is just another part of that, just to show you zoomed in a little bit. This is the first Common Core lesson for this atlas. So this is Common Core Lesson 1. It tells you exactly what the student needs to do to meet that standard. These lessons provide critical thinking and more rigor to your classroom. Just another example of what some of these lessons might look like. Finding details, reading captions closely, bold print, using your context clues, determining the meaning of words. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to switch from the teacher's lessons to the student pages that you would use with the lessons. So we'll use the first grade atlas for this. So after you open the Lessons tab, you'll click the arrow to the right and select Student. So this will open the activity pages for the students. So these next two slides show you an example of the activity cards needed to follow that lesson plan. So these are the cards that you would actually give to the students. So this one asks you, tells the students, direct the students' attention to the picture map of the community across page 12 and 13. So again, they're going to a specific atlas page, and then it tells them what to do next. Okay, just another example. Extension activities are also provided on every lesson to provide more opportunities for students to dig deeper into the content. So let's look at some of our other atlases. If we go back over to the left side of the screen. So here is our wonderful atlas titled Our Country's History. So once you choose an atlas, you'll go back and click on the paper icon again, and it'll close out the library so that you don't have this part on your screen when you're teaching. So now my tabs to the left are closed. Again, the first page in every atlas has a facts page. This one is about state facts. Okay, this is the second page in the atlas, which is always the contents page that will show you the page numbers for each topic and what topics are available in each atlas. So now I've turned to page 32. So let's look at the wonderful resources on this page. Okay, zooming in on this page, you'll see a focus question at the top. Each page of our atlases has this feature. This one talks about what led to the Revolutionary War. These focus questions lead to rich conversations with your students, and they help guide your lessons with great critical thinking type questions. Zooming in on the bottom left-hand side of the atlas, it gives the dates and explains the different acts the British taxed on the colonists. It also provides a primary source of the Boston Massacre with a description underneath. All of these different sources on each atlas provide many opportunities for projects, discussions, writings, and so forth. So let's talk about examples of things you can do with any primary source on any of our atlas pages. Primary sources, as we know, add a real-life element to history. They give students the opportunity to observe details and make assumptions. Primary sources also help students develop vocabulary, develop empathy for the human condition, analyze different points of view, and develop many more skills. One of the activities I always use with my students is a primary source photograph. With a photograph. We call this our history detectives. The students love it. Photographs are open for interpretation, so therefore primary sources give students the engaging opportunity to become history detectives. As students research the elements of the primary source for hidden clues, they begin to develop questions. So what event was taking place? Why were the people there? You know, any questions that that they're coming up with for whatever primary source you're using. Questions like these engage the learners and lead to a quest for answers. So as a result, teachers can demonstrate to students the effective tools for researching to find those answers. All of our Atlas topics have many different wonderful primary sources to engage our learners. The right side of the same Atlas page gives you a map with facts and dates in the boxes. It also provides a map key of the Loyalists and the colonies, if you'll see right here on the right side. And finally, at the bottom right-hand page, this gives you another map providing information regarding the routes used by each troop, along with another map key. So let's go back to the full page view and talk about other strategies you can use with these Atlas pages. With so many different sections on a page, these atlases easily lend themselves to group projects. For example, in my classroom, I use this page for many learning stations or centers. I chose 4 topics from this page that are key things that led to the Revolutionary War, and I assigned groups of students to each learning station. The students would use iPads in each station to view this page where they zoomed in on their specific section for information. And I also had different graphic organizers and other types of directions in each station. One was a cause and effect graphic organizer. That was in one station. Another, I had a writing prompt. Then I had a question sheet to research and work through. And then I would set a timer, and each group would work in that station for a certain amount of time using their iPads. And then they would rotate through all the stations. At the end, they had a deeper understanding of what led to the Revolutionary War. Again, you can do this type of activity with any of our Atlas pages. These atlases are also great to use when you're first introducing a topic, to assessing their knowledge and what they've learned at the end, to access their prior knowledge, and anything in between. Another atlas in our library is the Atlas of the United States History. This is the contents page that kind of shows you what all is in this atlas. So let's zoom in and look at Error 8, the Great Depression and World War II, on page 82. This page provides a great timeline with so much information. Like all pages, it provides primary sources and many nonfiction text features, which deepen their comprehension. of the content. So let's talk more about activities that you could do with this or any primary source. So if you'll look at this picture and the description under it, millions of Americans lost jobs, homes, businesses, and savings during the Depression. Bread lines and soup kitchens run by private charities offered help to those who had lost everything. This photograph from the Great Depression shows the intense facial expression of this man. So students that are viewing and analyzing this type of photograph should be able to describe the figure and the surrounding details. You could use this photograph to do a caption writing where students would come up with a caption and write under the picture a caption of their own, or a dialogue where you could have students write a conversation that might take place between the people in this photograph. This is just another wonderful primary source that just lends itself to so many different activities. This is a primary source where it talks about the Oregon Trail and their families and the pioneers and the wagons. You could use this photograph to do a divided image activity where you would divide the picture into 4 sections or 2 parts and have students examine the photograph and list everything that they see in their assigned section of the picture. This is one of the activity pages that also goes along with this atlas. So if you zoom in, you can see that each activity page requires students to access the page and interact with the atlas. This is our Atlas of World History. The table of content shows you all the topics that are covered in this atlas. Another wonderful thing about our atlases is that they all come with a how to use this atlas guide for you. So read the atlas. If you read the directions on the left side, it says that anytime you're engaging with these pages, you'll want to read the unit title, which tells what the unit's about and what time period it covers. Then you'll want to read the topic title, which tells what these 2 pages are about. Then the introduction. And then it tells you to follow the A, B, C, D markers as a path throughout the page. Students can open the toolbox to work further with the atlas, and they can also zoom in on the primary sources. Okay, this is just another example from our wonderful World Atlas. Going back to the pages on the Great Depression, let's talk about ways to engage students again with the text. So as social studies teachers, we want our students to be able to find important information and main ideas. We want them to be able to make inferences and to summarize. We always want to give them a purpose for the reading. After the students have read around the text and completed any pre-reading strategies, focusing on the photographs, the maps, the charts, the headings, the subheadings, keywords, maybe italicized words, then we want to have them always focus on their focus question. Fighting the war in Europe. So let's read the description under the picture. You can see that about the aerial bombings. So you might want to have students here predict the effects of such bombing, and this will also allow for further discussions. Then on the next page, the information continues and students can discuss their predictions of the effects on the bombing. Ending the war in the Pacific. Okay, there's a lot of bulleted information in these pages. We can have students discuss and summarize. These photographs, paired with the map keys, expand the knowledge of the war and give students a great visual for things like the the Allied invasion force, the paratroops landing site, the artillery, machine guns. These atlases give all the necessary elements and features to master the content and the skills being taught. So let's look at our charts section of StrataLogica. When you first click on the Charts tab, this screen view will pop up. So let's click on the chooser icon to open up our series options. This screen shows you all the charts in the economic series. So let's zoom in so we can see those titles. So in the economics series, you can see the things we have: types of businesses, government and the economy, global trade. Okay, these are the series that we have to choose from. So we just looked at the economics series. We also have these other 3 series in the charts section: U.S. government and civics, flag and symbols series, and our country's government. So let's zoom in on the U.S. government and civics series so you can see all of the charts available under this series. So comparing governments, branches of our government, U.S. Bill of Rights, Supreme Court cases, and so forth. Then we have our flag and symbols series and our country government. This is the chart that goes there. So this is a wonderful chart to use in many ways. It's a wonderful resource for teaching the structure of our government. So let's look more closely at the supply and demand chart in the economic series. Okay, if I click on the Lessons tab to my right. Okay, so these charts and lesson plans provide so much rigor. If you'll just see the key elements that we're addressing just from this one chart: law of supply diagram, law of demand, types of supply and demand graph, supply and demand schedule, price and quantity graph. So at the beginning of each lesson, there's a Getting Started section that gives students an overview of the topics and asks questions that allow for the students to begin thinking critically about the topic. These are great ways to access their prior knowledge of the topic as well. So one of the questions it asks in the Getting Started section is, in the law of supply diagram, what happens to the quantity supplied when price goes down? So these are just great questions to get them to thinking. So now let's look at the teaching notes and the mapping activities lesson. Okay, so this is lesson activity A. So let's zoom in a little bit. Each activity consists of step-by-step instructions for the teacher as they model steps using the chart, as well as directions for the students. So these can be done whole group, in collaborative groups, or individually. So let's do the first few directions together to see what it might look like on your interactive board. So let's go back to the supply and demand chart. So there's several teaching sections on this one chart. It shows you the law of supply, the law of demand, types of supply and demand, providing a graph. On the right side, there's an activity section titled, How do supply and demand determine price? So in the teaching notes, it gives information about a supply and demand schedule. This particular activity uses the purchasing of DVDs as the product. The students are the consumers, and the teachers have students vote on the price that they would pay for a DVD. The lesson goes on to discuss the law of demand, the inverse relationship between price and demand, and so forth. So let's take a look at how we can use the toolbox. So if I open the toolbox where I have a choice to use the marker, symbols are actually written text on the chart section. So I chose the color and the size, and I began typing. I can, at the bottom here, I can choose the size of my font. Excuse me. This slide shows you how I began labeling the chart on the upper right-hand side. I began adding numbers and lines to the graph, and I even added the word inverse as I was discussing parts of the lesson with the students. You can manipulate the chart and the graphs in a number of ways. And remember, you also have the eraser option to erase one particular section or erase them all. This is a copy of the student worksheet that goes along with this chart. These are printable, and the students can work individually or collaboratively as you work on the chart from your interactive board. There are at least 3 different lessons for each chart that build on each other to deepen the lessons. There's also an extension activity at the bottom of each lesson to further engage your students. Again, these atlases and charts are excellent resources to provide highly engaged lessons with your students at every grade level for every topic and standard. In addition to the Common Core lessons already provided for you for each atlas and chart, I also extend the learning by doing a mock activity with this. So using the supply and demand chart, you can choose a real-life situation. In my classroom, for example, I used a shortage of pencils. So I created a mock activity that extended over a few days where students could actually watch the price go up as the demand for pencils goes up. Students can graph the data daily. I also do a carousel activity where students work in collaborative groups working on different learning targets that relate to the topic. And after their tasks are complete, they summarize their findings on a chart, and each group chooses a spokesperson to stay behind. And as the groups rotate around the carousel, they hear the learning from each group. So this is the last slide of our webinar today, and I hope you've enjoyed hearing about the atlases and charts section. If you have any questions or need further information, I've listed Pam Gothard's information here for you.
Tammy, that was fabulous. Oh, so many great ways to use the atlases and charts, and you just highlighted it so beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing that today.